welcome back for another Star Trek the official Starships collection review. In front of me I have issue 114, the Challenger class, also known as the USS Buran. And as you can see, I have a wonderful looking model and a magazine here in front of you. So before we get to this baby, let's get to the goodness that is inside of the magazine, shall we? Alrighty, here it is. The magazine for the Challenger class. Once again, issue 114, the USS Buran class Challenger, launched in the 24th century, 390 meters long, and it can go as fast as warp 9.6. Got a cool image of the ship on the cover. Probably never before seen view, I would think. Turn the page, and you have your specification and table of contents. Is again considered Challenger class, affiliated with Starfleet and the Federation in the 24th century, 390 meters long again, and the crew of 300, 9.6 warp 9.6 for speed. And it has phaser emitters and photon torpedoes for weaponry. Another little neat perspective on the ship there. Turn the page, and a rather cool image there, which is different than this one. Looks like an orbit of Earth. And a little text about the ship, at least as much as I guess they can get, considering this ship was only seen as a blip on screen, I think right around, I don't know. It's somewhere seen briefly on screen in the Best of Both Worlds. For those of you who are not aware, this is one of the many ships that was destroyed at the Battle of Wolf 359 with the Borg, or by the Borg, in the episode The Best of Both Worlds on Star Trek The Next Generation. The ship wasn't really seen in its glory like this. It was merely just a small disfigured model that you could see on the view screen on the Enterprise D as they view the wreckage. And you would have to pause it, zoom in, and all of that just to even get a glimpse of what the ship possibly looked like when it wasn't damaged or destroyed. So yeah, here's some text about the history of the ship, I suppose. And again, not very much, considering that, only appeared as a blip. And here's the spec page, or the centerfold page, the plan page, showing you where all the components are. Yeah, and it shows you where everything is, and it looks kind of cool. I actually like this side view, to be honest. Turn the page, and here's what I call magazine filler, a timeline of the Borg, basically all the various Borg incursions, known Borg incursions, starting with First Contact in 2063, which incidentally is only a couple of decades, 2 or 3 decades away from now, almost. And we have the Enterprise episode of Regeneration, which takes place in 2153, and of course the Voyager stuff that takes place in 2353 and 2375, referencing Dark Frontier, Q, Best of Both Worlds, Endgame, First Contact, etc., etc., etc. So it's kind of nice to go through this for those of you who are curious about the Borg and the timeline of things. And here's more magazine filler, a section on the makeup of the 4th season of TNG, which featured the amazing season finale of featuring the Best of Both Worlds. And more on that. And more on that. And finally, the on-screen appearance page. It's only appeared in the Best of Both Worlds Part 2 as part of a view screen flyby as wreckage. Like I said, you'd have to zoom in really close and pause the frame or whatnot to really get a good look at it. So yeah, and here's some trivia, various things, and here's some interesting thing that I didn't know. Down here in the magazine it says, prior to filming The Best of Both Worlds, LeVar Burton had surgery and this was why he only appeared in close-ups. That's cool, or rather bad, but that's interesting. And it says most of LaForge's lines were given to Chief O'Brien. Ah, okay. And of course, coming up next time will be the Tellarite cruiser from Star Trek Enterprise. So that ought to be interesting, I suppose. And now, let's look at the back of the magazine there. And there is the Buran. And so that wraps up the magazine. And now, let's get to the ship itself. Alright, so you'll notice there is the Challenger class USS Buran. Here it is in the box, same as every other box. From the looks of things in the box, it appears slightly small, but that's not a bad thing in this case. So I know you're anxious to see it as much as I'm anxious to get it out. So let's get right to it. Okay, and wow, pretty awesome. Like I said, a little bit small, but that's not necessarily bad. Bear in mind, this ship has never, ever been made in model form before, if you don't count the actual studio model and other fan-made things over the years. This was not seen like this in the episode. Again, it was just a small model, maybe about, well, it was just a small appearance about that big, and it didn't look anywhere near as good as this. It was all banged up, damaged, broken, torn in pieces, wrecked, etc. Because of the battle. This is another one of the infamous kit bashes. You can clearly see all the Galaxy class and Nebula class influences here. Basically, you have the Galaxy class saucer section, and of course Galaxy class and Nebula class warp nacelles. This looks like, I don't know where this part came from. It looks like an extended secondary hull from the Galaxy class. So it's a rather neat design. I know a lot of people were asking where the deflector dish was, and that is a good question. You can see the registry here, USS Buran NCC 57580. That's the name of the ship that was destroyed in particular. And this is a pretty awesome and nice model. You got the Starfleet pendant on the top of the nacelle there. You've got it on the bottom. You've got the registry on the bottom as well. At least the number, not the name, but the number is cool. Oh, look. It's also on the sides of the nacelles themselves, on both the top and bottom nacelles. And it's also on the other side as well. And it's got the clear blue plastic in between the nacelles for the warp grill, which is always cool when they do that. I wish they would be more consistent with that with some of these ships. It's mostly metal. The nacelles are plastic, but the primary and secondary hull, if you want to consider it that, are all metal. And interestingly enough, it just occurred to me that this looks almost like a pizza cutter, like a pizza slicer. It's a cool model. I'm really glad it's in the collection. It's probably the fifth best of both worlds ship we have now, and a ship that I never thought that I would ever get. And it's nice that this collection is so diverse, not just from all the Starfleet ships, but Klingon, Romulan, Ferengi, Borg, Hirogen, Cardassian, Bajoran, etc., etc., etc. And yeah, as I said, this is another one of the best of both worlds ships. In fact, I think I've gotten one every month for the last maybe 4 months or so. Yeah, I think it's awesome. And pretty soon they're probably going to run out of Federation ships. So yeah, that is the Buran model. And of course it comes with the usual stand, which on the bottom just simply says Challenger class. Now, I'm not going to actually take it out and put the stand on, for the simple fact of the matter that I don't have any room for these ships left anymore. I have 2 glass cases and they're both full. So these are kind of going on standby until I can get another shelf to put them on. So that will go back in here just for now. And whoops. And I look forward to being able to put this up, especially once I get the remaining vegetables for a ship, just to get them. So my friends, that is the Challenger class USS Buran, Seen and Best of Both Worlds Part 2. This is issue 114. I would highly recommend getting this model, especially if you're a TNG fan, especially if you love all Starfleet ships. And this is one of the more rare ones, an unusual design, one of the kit bashes that they just threw together out of existing model parts and etc. But it looks really cool. The quality of the model is fantastic. The paint's great. I don't really see any errors. The registry is bold and vibrant. You got the clear in the cells and the red for the starred brand scoops, which is there and there. And it's an overall fantastic model. The only reason why I would probably give it a 9 out of 10 instead of a 10 is simply because of its size. It's a little bit smaller, but it's actually not so much of an issue. But just for the sake of it, I just knocked it down for that reason. So yeah, that is it. And if you have any questions, drop them down below. And please hit subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. And until next time, live long and prosper.